So this is Rachel, and I am back for another cooking episode. Today we are making banana bread. This is by request. I am sharing my quick and easy blender recipe for banana bread. So I'm going to take 4 bananas for my bread, unwrap those, dump them in a blender, and then you're going to add the sour cream, the eggs, a half a cup of oil, and your vanilla, and then we're going to blend that up. Meanwhile, you should remember to set your oven to 350 so that it is nice and warm, because this is not going to take very long to get this bread ready to pop into the oven. So again, I've got 4 bananas, 3 spoonfuls of vanilla, or you can just dump it in. I'm trying to measure my things out, just for your sake. But a lot of times when I'm cooking without doing a video, I just dump it in there. So you've got 4 bananas, 2 eggs, half a cup of oil, half a cup of sour cream, and your 3 or so teaspoons, or you could even do 3 tablespoons of vanilla, depending on what you like. Sometimes if I'm out of vanilla, I'll use lemon extract. Either lemon extract or vanilla extract go really well with banana bread. So it just adds kind of like a smooth flavor to it, so it's not banana only, but banana, vanilla, banana, lemon. And that sour cream also has a little acidity or tartness to it that gives it a little more depth with the banana flavor. So you're just going to blend all those things into a smoothie, basically. So it should look like this when you're done. And then you are going to go ahead and measure out your dry ingredients. So it's really this fast. You just add 2 cups of flour into your bowl, and then you're going to add about a teaspoon each of baking powder, baking soda, and salt, and then as much cinnamon as you want. You want to declump the baking powder and the baking soda just in your fingers, just to make sure there are no chunks of soda or powder, so that you don't bite into a big piece of baking soda when you're eating your bread. And then of course the 1 teaspoon of salt. So again, a teaspoon each of baking soda, baking powder, and salt. It's easy to remember, just equal parts of those. And then you can just dump your cinnamon, or I'm going to put about 3 teaspoons in. You could once again put, up to maybe 2 tablespoons if you really want it extra cinnamony, but I think 3 spoonfuls or so is good. Then just kind of sift that together with your fingers, or you can grab a whisk or a fork or whatever you prefer. I like to feel it, so just to make sure, again, that there are no little clumps in there, because I do not like biting into a clump of anything in my baked goods. This is, of course, just regular old granulated sugar. So you're going to dump in a cup of that and mix that sugar right in with your dry ingredients, which is super sacrilegious in the baking world, because usually you mix your sugar with your wet ingredients. But once again, this is just for the sake of speed and quickness. And my little kiddo, Langston, who has autism, is very sensory selective with his eating. So this is a very smooth texture for him. He doesn't like chunks and lumps in his food. And so the smoothness of the puree of the banana and liquid ingredients just makes a very smooth bread texture throughout. It's very even throughout. So you're just going to go ahead and empty that whole blender of the liquid ingredients into your bowl over top of those dry ingredients. And then we're just going to stir this together. So I like to use a fork and just make little circles with the fork. You don't want to overmix, because you don't want to have lots of clumps again in there. You don't want to undermix because of the clumps. You don't want to overmix because you don't want it to get to be stiff, and it kind of makes like a stiff and stodgy bread. Like it's kind of like chewy and it's not tender. It's a different texture anyway, so don't overmix, but also make sure you do mix it to the point where it's nice and blended. Then you're going to get a greased and floured loaf pan, just a standard size bread pan, and go ahead and dump the whole thing in there. So you don't want to use an electric mixer to mix those wet and dry ingredients, by the way, because that will overmix. So use a fork or a spoon, but then go ahead and just, dump it in there, smooth it out on the top, clean off your little spatula, and you are ready to pop that in your preheated oven. Again, your oven should be preheated to just a regular old 350. So it's pretty easy to remember all of these things with banana bread because it's just very standard. So it's nice and hot. We just pop that in there. And then we're going to set our timer for about an hour. So this should take an hour to bake. Now, if after an hour it looks like this in the middle and it comes out a little sticky on a toothpick, then you might want to add 5 more minutes. Sometimes the size of the bananas will vary, and so if they're bigger bananas, it might take a little bit longer to cook than if they were medium bananas, for example. So you might need to set an extra 5 minutes, but try not to overbake it because it will be a little bit dry if you overbake it. With that greased and floured pan, it should pop right out of that loaf pan, and you are done basically with your banana bread. We just have one more step, and that is kind of important for cooling. We're going to cool this off for about 5 minutes or so just to get it from a place of being hot to warm. And once it's kind of set there for 5 minutes, you do want to cover it. Now this is what's going to really give you that moist exterior, because all the moisture is in the bread, and you notice from the outside it almost looks kind of crusty or dry. If you like that nice sticky moist crust, then you want to cover it with plastic wrap and let it sit overnight. So I usually make my banana bread at night before bed and go ahead and cool it off for 5 minutes, then cover it. It is still nice and plenty warm, and it's going to basically kind of steam the loaf inside of that wrap and bring the moisture from the inside of the bread kind of out to the crust, and it evens out the moisture throughout the bread. So just go ahead and wrap it up and sit it there. Let it steam in that plastic wrap overnight. And then when you get up in the morning, it is going to be delicious for a nice little breakfast. Now, actually, when I got up in the morning, this was the situation. So somebody cut into it already. So this banana bread will go quickly. So make sure that you get your piece. You got to claim your slice. But go ahead and slice it up. I actually like to put it in Ziploc bags, 1 or 2 slices per Ziploc bag, because it's just so easy to just grab and go out the door, or send to somebody like a hair client, for example, because I have a hair client who loves banana bread and who I actually am doing this whole video for. So shout out to Jason and anyone else who loves banana bread. I hope you find this video to be helpful and quick and easy, and let me know how yours turns out.